Out live with Bootsy Vegas and Marc Clarke. We are back at it. Mr. Vegas, what's going on?
Hello, Mr. Clarke. It's always good to talk to the prosperous and the successful media people and moguls, and they still have time for young little podcasters like me, still hoping, wishing, and dreaming. Thank
I
you.
always talk to successful musical geniuses who have spurred a new go-go movement, along with Raheem Devon. If you haven't caught it, you're gonna have check out the Crank Crusaders. And so it's good to be back, Bootsy. Thank you for making time in your busy schedule. The young Maurice White is available. So it's just glad to have you back.
Yes, sir.
And the Finn Dave Anderson is joining. He's
online.
Man, Dave, I don't know what it is. Dave, Guy Torrey, who else? A couple other people. Whenever they're in town, I'm always away. It's weird. It's a weird energy. But Dave, damn it, I'm going to come see you, my brother. You know I love you like a brother. And look at skinny Dave. Look at that picture, Dave, man. He's down like 250, man. He's crazy.
Hey, shout out to Dave in his interview on the Ghetto Boys podcast.
He killed
Dave, it. You were amazing on that, bro. You were amazing on that.
He's always amazing. He's always amazing. And yes, so we are back. We got a crazy show. First part of the show, we're going to talk with my man, Fitty Grand. He has an amazing story. I'm bringing him online right now, Bootsy Vegas. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up for Kevin Hickman, who joins the conversation. Kevin, what's up, bro?
Nothing much. How you gentlemen doing today?
We are good, Kevin. You're starting to party off with us, man. Our Thursday Night Live, and me and Kevin hit it off. Let me tell you something, Bootsy. This happens to you all the time, too. And I think the reason it happens, and Kevin and I talked to that, I think is because we as Black men are open. So God delivers brothers to us, and we have these conversations, and they go from here to there. Next thing you know, the cat's a millionaire, or next thing you know, the brother starts a program that can't be denied. And so Kevin and I was going to an event. I ran into him. We started talking. I think, Kevin, we stood out there for probably about 30, 40 minutes just rapping, man.
A little longer than that, yes.
You know, and you can't, he's magnanimous. You can't see the brother's magnanimous brother. You know, he got that smile, he got that warmth, they got that energy. But Kevin, like many of us, has a story. And so, Kevin, let's hop into the story. Let's hop into your story, Kevin, because again, that's what got us in this conversation, right?
Right. Well, first of all, I have to say, Mark, it was a little more than 45 minutes. I think it was a little over an hour. But it was good.
He can get lengthy, Kevin. Kevin, one thing about him, he can get lengthy with you.
By the way, officially, let me say Kevin meet Bootsy, Bootsy meet Kevin. There we go.
All right, Bootsy, how you, man? Please.
What's up, my brother?
All right. Well, as I was saying, Mark, when we were talking, I had some trials and tribulations in my life, and I had, spent some time in prison, and federal prison at that. In 2007, I was arrested for my involvement in a heroin distribution ring, and I was arrested with officers that was involved in the Baltimore City Gun Trace Task Force, and I, like a lot of other guys who were arrested by them, drugs was tampered with, and the truth wasn't told as it occurred, and I was sentenced to life plus 30 years. And not to minimize the evidence that was involved, but I was in possession of 20 grams of heroin. And so I say this because I think this attention needs to be directed to a lot of the young guys that's out in the street that really don't know how the system works, because the system doesn't never work in our favor. And we don't know what happens until we get caught up. You get locked up and you think, I'm gonna get a bail and I'm gonna get out. Well, when you get in the federal custody, it's not, I'm gonna get a bail and I'm gonna get out. It's not like that. I was sentenced to the life plus 30. I got myself caught up. It's easy to get caught up. And at 47 years old, it should have been hard to get caught up. But you in the belly of the beast. So with that being said, I got in some trouble while I was incarcerated. I was spent 6 years in the ADX, which was the most difficult thing that I could ever imagine would happen to me in my life, and out of those 6 years, it was solitary confinement, 22 hours a day, none of the laws that actually could help me are not available to me, So, and I'm really telling this story because I want the young guys to know that what you're doing now can cost you later. You never know where this road going to lead to. It looks fine. It looks like you might you might get out. I only had a little bit. Well, I only had a little bit until somehow it turned to a little bit more than what I had. The color of it changed, but nobody want to take responsibility for that, So I made a complaint about the officers, not knowing anything about the Gun Trace Task Force at all. In 2007, I have no idea that they even exist. But I made this complaint that these officers were locked up for in 2016. And the whole time I was making this complaint, I was being denied justice. Nobody wanted to hear it. Lawyers wouldn't touch it. And in 2016, those same officers were caught up in a scandal. So it just solidifies the story that maybe they looking at it like maybe this guy's not telling the truth. We don't know. Well, I told the truth before the truth even came out.
Wow.
And I spent 13 years in prison. I got out on a compassionate release, but I was never able to, gain any monetary value. Not that that was the main focus, but the same thing everybody else gets. Then they tell you, well, your time barred. So I had to have another plan. So my plan was really just give it to God. I gave it to God. I come home, and although I didn't get the monetary value, I was given things. I was given the opportunity for a good job. I worked. I got a nice place. I got a nice floor. I'm doing all right. But everybody don't get that second chance. And I was given that second chance, so I value it. And I really want to help these young guys in Baltimore City. I think they need not only some guidance, they need somebody who knows, somebody who's been there, somebody who going to really, no matter how mad you get, I'm still there, but, you need to hear. You need to hear over and over until you get it. So that's one of my goals, and I'm blessed. As I spoke to you, Mark, I was like, and you remember you walked away and I came back and I said, Mark, I could do this too. And you said, come on, man, come on. Well, it's pretty much how it is, It's a lot of things that I want to reach out and do, and it's really about the young guys. And Baltimore City has changed a lot since I've been gone. I never knew that these kids will be doing the things that they do. So I want to reach out, man. I want to reach out.
I guess my first question would be, how does somebody stay sane mentally? What mentally did you have to do to stay sane for a 6-year situation? Because, I think sometimes some people can glamorize jail almost like a badge of honor or whatever, but just can you give us some insight on what it was to deal with the confinement of that 6-year part of the sentence?
It's funny. That's one of the questions I get a lot. I really applied myself. I couldn't afford a lawyer. So I studied law, and I studied law every chance that I could get out of that cell. I was in the law library, and I wanted to be able to represent myself because the representation that I needed was very expensive. I couldn't afford it. my family couldn't afford it. So I just constantly studied, I read, I watched the news because, in the ADX, you got a TV in yourself. And that's like you say, it's not to glamorize anything, but you really have to involve yourself in the media, whether it's good or bad. You have to read, you have to do things constructive because it's people in the cell right next to you that you'll never see until it's recreation or something like that. They're crazy. They're losing their minds. And I was blessed because the Department of Justice came down and said, if these guys do not have mass murders or cartel relationships, get them out of there because so many of them going crazy. And assault on an officer. So not to minimize it, but I had assault on an officer, which I could have been involved in something more bigger and not released. So the movement to get a lot of the guys who didn't have real serious crimes like that out of there, I made the bus,
Mm-hmm. I would love to know, what was it like when you realized that what you thought was a life or 30-year sentence? What was that feeling like when you realized that you were coming home? What was that mental part like? And what was the hardest thing to adjust to going back to regular life?
Well, I don't think it was too much adjustment to going back. It's more anxiety to get out there.
Mm.
But when they gave me the life, I couldn't believe it. I just couldn't imagine that I was the least culpable in the whole situation, whole conspiracy. I couldn't imagine that little old me had gotten life plus 30. I'm the only one went to trial. And all my co-defendants, they took pleas. So when when they told me, I thought it was unbelievable. I never accepted it. And I had in my mind that, man, I am going to fight this till the end. I prayed the night before. Everybody laughed when I tell them, but I prayed so hard the night before I went to trial. And I was asking God, should I take a plea for 20 years or should I go to trial and face life plus 30?
Mm.
So I thought I heard God tell me, go on in there because you can win. And I went in there and got that 30 life plus 30 years. I went back in there and I asked God, why did you do this to me, man? Because it was unbelievable. And that's the state of mind. You find yourself asking questions to the highest that you probably never thought you would ask. And when I asked, I thought he said something else to me. I thought he told me, you're going to win.
Mm.
And today, I stand on it. That's what he told me.
Yeah.
I won. I didn't do the whole life, and I didn't do the 30. Because regardless of whether I finished the 30 years, I still had life.
So how many years did you end up doing, Kev?
I actually did 13 years.
Okay. Well, shoot. Well, first of all, this is and Bootsy, this is where the motivational speaking starts. Number one, as far as, again, that faith,
Right.
faith to believe and to know, because like you said, that really, I'm sure people were pulling their hair out, especially based on, the fact that you really weren't the biggest player. Right. And everybody else took their deals. And so that lesson had to be crazy. So Kevin, we talked about this, the challenges though of facing when you do come out, the challenge with family, with kids and stuff like that. Can you talk to us a little bit about that? And then we'll move to looking forward, and again, anything we can do to help. I already know, like you say, you're Bootsy works with young people. I work with young people. Your story and your experience is special and unique, and can really give some kids some insight before they make the biggest mistakes of their life. So I know there's a space out there for you, and for those who are watching this in real time and later on, you're also, please think of Kevin as a source, because again, when I used to talk to young people who were incarcerated, and you remember baby bookings in the different places. The one thing I realized, and Kevin, I told you about that, was
Right.
they always could sense. Bootsy, I know you had this experience. They can always sense somebody who's been through it for real. I'm the radio guy. I'm the TV guy. I'm Alison Seymour's husband. I'm somebody's daddy. But when I was brought somebody who went through it, that person didn't even have to say anything. The kids would have, they just knew it. Almost like I can identify with him. And I think that's what makes, again, I think a lot of times when we say, well, why God, why me? A lot of times it's because you're going to be the beacon for somebody else. So Kevin, talk to us about, like say, when you came back out and that life.
Right. Well, when I, my family, which I lost a lot of family members while I was incarcerated or during those 13 years, but they were there. I have a son that was right there, and it was such a relief and so much anxiety that everybody was looking forward to me coming home. But a lot of people actually did not believe that I was coming home, because that's the mental state that guys be in when they're incarcerated. They tell you, I'm coming home. I just filed a motion. I'm coming home. And they don't make it. So nothing was supposed to be different with me. They looking at me like, I hope Kevin is saying, he keeps saying he coming home. But when I came home, everybody was there with arms open. I didn't reach out to a lot of people because when I was incarcerated, because not only out of shame, but also, I'm too busy to get caught up in emotions. I'm fighting. If I get caught up in emotions, I can't file this motion. And, I can't study. I can't go in there and sit down. It's just like even with a girlfriend. Go on about your business. I don't need the headaches, because you could be doing nothing, but the mind is a dangerous thing. And so I came home. I was blessed. I was actually supposed to reside in South Carolina. They didn't want me to reside in South Carolina, so they made me quarantine because of COVID for 14 days. And once I was released, man, everything was just beautiful, man. I stay focused. One thing I'll never forget is I was given a second chance. I might have thought I was given a second chance before, but that was nothing compared to this. That was minute. This is a second chance on life.
Right.
This is what, and it's sad to say, this is what guys need to experience. Because go ahead.
No, I would love to know, because this is such a powerful story, powerful journey. Have you ever thought about writing a book? I'm like, just in your future plans. I know with the whole BMF thing, there's a lot of TV shows based around that. Obviously, The Wire. Just through your journey, because I think your story is great, because there is a somewhat of a happy ending. There's somewhat of a second chance thing going with your story.
Yes.
Have you ever thought of writing a book, or even pitching it, or possibly pitching some type of television, miniseries? Because obviously all these stages are great, and it's so many lessons to learn.
That's one of the main things that I want to do. And I have a lot of people ask me, why haven't you did it yet? Why are you going to do it? I need resources, and I need to know people. I need, some direction. I need that. But that's the top of my list. I do write a little bit. I write, but I've been writing little skits and things, commercials and stuff like that. And I got, I it's like, everybody laugh when I tell them I can do everything I can't do.
That's a bar there.
That's a bar there, right?
That's a bar there.
Yeah.
So how far along have you got with your book, and has it been hard illustrating it? Like, is it hard reliving everything?
I wrote a few chapters for my book. And when I got in trouble in the system, the police took my writings, they took my poems.
Wow.
And what they do, they'll take your stuff put lotion on it, stuff like that, so you'll never be able to use it. So what I would do, I would write stuff and I would never finish it. Only I knew where it was going to go, but I would never finish it because when I finish it, if I get in any trouble or any retaliation for that situation, they're going to take it and I'm going to lose it again. So it was pretty much like to preserve what I wrote. I just don't write it this time. I just like if I had all the equipment, I could sit down every night and write 2 or 3 pages, you know, until I'm finished.
Well, Kevin, look, we're going to help you on this journey. I mean, right now, that's simply your phone. That's simply a computer. It's really just some ideas. So we're going to help you on that journey. We got some other guests we're going to move on. But, Kevin, if people want to reach you, what's the best way for them to reach you?
Well, you can reach me at Kevin, HCKMN, at iCloud.com.
Man, let me just say before you even go, man, thank you. I mean, this is an amazing story, but I think the most amazing thing about it is there is somewhat a happy ending to this. There is a lesson learned. There's a lesson to be shared. And, you know, the great thing is a lot of stories do not end like yours.
Right.
So I do think that is probably the light, the switch to say you should really share this because you got a second chance and you're even maximizing taking advantage of your second chance. And a lot of folks need to hear that post 40 or in your early 50s after being incarcerated, there's still a lot of things that you can accomplish. I'm really excited. I cannot wait for you to share your story. And I will be staying in touch as well because I'm fascinated about it as well. Now,
Bootsy, here's the crazy part about tonight. Now, Kevin was scheduled, but a couple people were not. We're going to have 2 shows, but this person I'm going to bring on right now, and I know she's nodding her head because this ain't nothing but God. I met Kevin in a parking lot, right?
Okay.
I met our next guest down Baltimore Harbor. But again, just a random, we just end up talking. She ended up praying for me. I ended up crying. I'm a mess out in these streets, okay? But this sister, and so crazily, she was supposed to be on last week, like Bootsy, but, you know, we couldn't make it. And so I'm listening to Kevin wrap up, and she hopped on. I'm like, I got to bring this on because I know she's going to hit us with a word. And so here's the thing. We're going to have to bring Kevin and our evangelist Verna back because you guys, your stories are amazing, and her story is even crazier than Kevin's, or about just as crazy as Kevin's. But tonight we can't get the whole story, but she has an amazing event coming up that I want her to get in and plug, and we'll have to bring her back. This is Evangelist Verna in the building. Evangelist, welcome to the show. How are you, sister?
I'm fine. How are you and everyone? Hi.
I know when you heard his thing, I know you were like, been there, done that.
Yeah.
But we're not talking about that tonight. Should I call you Star?
Yeah, that's fine. It's fine.
Okay.
It doesn't matter.
Star, I just want you to plug your event because I have some other guests lined up. But let's plug your event and bring you back. But tell us what's going on.
So tomorrow starts the 4th Heal from Within Women's and Men's Conference. Tomorrow it's going to be at 400 East Lexington Street from 4 to 9 p.m. Friday and Saturday. So I have different speakers coming from different walks of life. Some of the men going to be teaching on relationships, different topics and stuff like that. So you guys can come out, or whoever want to come out to the event. It's going to be awesome. We cook plenty of food, you know, so your belts will be nice and tight, and the word of God going forth. And I'm giving out gift cards, gift bags to the men. The men are going to crown the women queen. The women are going to crown the men king.
And so, Star, I know. So again, I think Kevin is in that glorious space that Bootsy said, second chances, right? But I think also Kevin's in that space of probably concern and fear and trying to figure out what my next steps are. Star, you've been where Kevin's been. You've been where he's been, and you made that turn. So, Star, can you give us a little prayer for, especially for Kevin, but just for all of us as we are, and those who are watching under the sound of your voice. Wait a minute. Go ahead, Star.
Yes. So God, we just thank you for Kevin. We thank you for Bootsy, and we thank you for Mark. Everybody that's on the line tonight, God, at the sound of my voice, we thank you for their lives, God. We thank you for opening doors that no man can shut, God, and shutting doors that no man can open. God, you said the steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord. So, God, we thank you that our steps and these gentlemen's steps are being ordered by you, God. We thank you, Father God, for bringing everything, every dream that they have to fruition in the mighty name of Jesus. We thank you, God, for how you want good for us, Father God. And may the Lord rest upon you all the days of your life. May his peace rest upon you. And as you travel through the streets of Baltimore City and around the world, the angels of the Lord go before you. In the mighty name of Jesus, we thank you. Thank you for this broadcast, this podcast, and may it continue to prosper and to become larger and larger where people will hear the important things that needs to be shared. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Amen. Amen. And Star, how can people reach you?
They can reach me at God's My First Love at yahoo.com. Or they can simply just hit my phone, 443-865-6492, and I will send them out the flyer for the conference, 400 East Lexington Street for Friday and Saturday, if anybody else wants to come.
Star, you've been a blessing. I never
Thank
get our
you.
little special moment. Okay, Kevin, Star, thank you so much, guys.
Thank
We're
you.
going to have you back, definitely. And Kevin, we're going to help you do whatever you want to do, brother, from books to plays to helping the young people.
Right. Hey, Mark, can I give you my phone number? Give them
Yes,
my
sir.
number. It's 443-810-6051. Thank you for praying over me. I appreciate that, Star.
Amen. Blessings.
And Mark, I really appreciate you, man. You're a blessing. Bootsy, it's a pleasure, man. I hope we get together and
Yes, we will.
Oh, we will.
All right. Y'all
We're gonna do a conference with Star. We're gonna do a conference. We're gonna put this all together. So appreciate you both. Okay. Take care. Man, oh man, Bootsy. Every time messing around with you, some magical moments
blame
happen.
me, will you? Blame it on me. It's always my fault.
And so we're supposed to tonight. We're going to hear from maybe comedian George Wallace. Troy Johnson's supposed to check in, but in the green room, a man who needs no introduction. Well, he does need an introduction because he needs no introduction. He's my big brother. He's my radio brother, and now one of the successful voices on YouTube. Tony Scott joins the conversation. Tony Scott, what's going on, you big old pimp?
From the low, baby, from the low.
Let me tell you something. Now, the thing that's interesting, I don't know, Tony, if it might just be life. But when you look around rooms now, people that you know, people that you don't know, they have ups, they have downs, they have challenges. They keep on. I guess, like Jim Brown said, what you gonna do now when you're faced with the biggest challenge. So I remember when Tony, we've talked about Bootsy's battle, stage 4 cancer. He battled over that twice. Tony, I remember, and it's so crazy. It's crazy. Tony, radio legend Tony Scott. We both have had times in our life when we're off the radio. Mm-hmm. And, now those who know my story know that I have been blessed to have a wife who has a fat check, a wife with a fat paycheck. Now, wait a minute now. Paycheck. Look at no ideas. A fat paycheck. Bootsy, keep it together, okay? Now, Tony Scott, let me tell you something. Tony always has had that. Bootsy, when I first met Tony in St. Louis, he was on vacation. I came in, I was interviewing. He came in, here he comes in with a braid down to his shoulders. He's from Texas, so he kind of moves like a cowboy. Tony's been a badass a long time, right? But let me tell you, this right here, and I'll get emotional, Bootsy. Tony Scott didn't have his radio gig. Tony Scott had to get out and start delivering food to get his girl through college. And he did that. Mm-hmm. Come on now. Yeah. Tony Scott was like, whatever I gotta do, I'm gonna do it. And he did it. And I watched him, Bootsy. He bought film equipment. He bought TV equipment. He bought microphones. He was in that situation that nobody wants to be in. When you as a man have to provide for your family, but you don't have a job. So he made a job. You know, he had a physical situation, and this guy delivered that damn food, man, and put his daughter through college. Come on now.
Yep.
I don't know if anybody out there has had to do that, but in typical fashion, Tony started on doing, recording himself, doing the videos, Bootsy, and he wasn't great at first. Okay.
What? Wait a minute. What?
He was a radio legend, and he was all right with the video piece, but he got better. He mastered it. Bootsy. So he already had mastered the radio thing. He mastered the video thing, and then he started working on voiceover. And again, we are radio guys. All of us are radio guys, but voiceover is a whole different animal. And so Tony practiced it, and he became an amazing voiceover guy. So now, Bootsy, you click to blank years later. Tony really hadn't even been using a video. He gets the gig on YouTube voicing a series that's very popular. He's killing the game. And they say, well, hey, Tony, can you add a video component? Why, sure, I can. Now, see, you know what I mean? Who knew? He didn't know 5-10 years ago, Bootsy, that he would be using that for real. It was a possibility, and he made it happen. And so for those who haven't seen this, Tony Scott is the voice of Nutty History on YouTube, which weekly has hundreds of thousands of views. And if you haven't checked it out, here's a little bit of it.
Heard about the great Khans. There was Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan, Möngke Khan, and Batu Khan. They ruled over the Mongol Empire, at its height the largest contiguous land empire in the history of the world. But the Mongols had some incredibly influential and powerful women in their ranks. Women who ruled the empire themselves in their own right. Women who pulled strings, who were kingmakers, who manipulated rivalries and waged spectacular wars. Women who helped split apart the empire and women who reunited it after years of decay. Here are the stories of the queens you didn't know ruled the Mongol Empire.
Come on.
Wow.
Come on now. He looks like money. He sounds like money. That's my big brother right there. Tony freaking Scott. His babies not only have graduated college, Bootsy, they make more money than us. They make more money than their daddy. You know what I'm saying? He did that. Tony, you did that. I'm going to say it. You did that shit, man. And I'm so proud of you, man.
Thank you,
And
man.
let me tell you something. Bootsy, I tried to do it. I tried to do the delivery. I tap out after 1 or 2 trips, Tony. Sorry. I'm like, come on, do it like Tony. Be like Tony. I'm like, I'm calling it in. I'm calling it a night.
Yeah,
So-
I did. I had a day job. I was managing Reverend Sharpton's national talk show, and then when I got done. It used to be from 10 to 4, but then I asked my boss, can I do 9 to 3 so that I can start delivering food? And he was like, you do what you got to do, man. He goes, I'm fine with whatever you do. So his grace, and I'd get off at 3 and I'd hit the streets and turn that app on about 3:15. And in the summertime, I'd go till it got dark. On weekends, I would go from like 10 till about 8, because they don't let you do like 12 hours, and they shut the app off because they don't want you to go on more than 12 hours. So I would do that in holidays and stuff like that. And I remember this lady, I was getting my car worked on, and this lady, we were talking about it, and she says, if you want to make some money delivering food, she goes, go by SMU, Southern Methodist University. She goes, during football season, they will keep you busy. And so I went over there, man, and that was hopping, man. And we, but it goes back to, what you have to do to keep the lights on, to keep your child. I mean, when I got laid off 2 weeks before my youngest daughter was starting college at the University of Texas in Austin. And when I told her I got laid off, her look of horror on her face is something I will never forget. And I told her, I said, you worry about your grades, I'll keep you in school. So that's what I did. And at one point I had like 7 different jobs, just piecing everything together, trying to keep things going. And I would pray every day and pray that, something would happen. And slowly things started, fall into place. But I was delivering food, and while delivering food, I gave myself 3 hernias, getting in and out of cars, going up and down stairs and stuff like that. Because I'm not a man, as you can tell, who's in great shape. And so So I had to do that, and then the company I was working for, their health plan wasn't the best, so I had to wait. So I had to stop doing Uber Eats, and I got to thinking about what I would do. What could I do utilizing my skill set that I could make money with? And I remember when I worked in radio in Dallas, the production guy, I read a spot for him one time. He goes, "Do you do voiceover work?" And I was like, "No." He was like, "Why not?" And I was like, "I don't know." I don't know why. So I thought about that, and then I started watching videos on YouTube and listening to podcasts, and then I started practicing. Because in radio, when you do a commercial, it's like a mash unit. It's like you just get them in and get them out, right? But in voiceover work, you have to interpret the script, and so I did that, and then I started auditioning. I went on some of these freelance sites like Upwork and Fiverr. And on Upwork, I ran across this one. I auditioned for it, and they hit me back and go, "Hey, we like your voice. Could you read the script for us?" And it was for a history channel called Nutty History, and I did, and I sent it back, and they paid me, and then this was about 3.5 years ago, and then they sent me a couple weeks later. They sent me a message, "Can you do another script for us?" I was like, "Yeah, just send it." So I did it and sent it back, and they paid me, and then then about a month later, they were like, "Do you have time to do another script?" I was like, "Man, if you guys send them, man, I'll knock them out all day." So just send the scripts, man. So they did. And what I didn't know was when I started with them, there were 3 voice people. It was me and 2 other people. And then not shortly afterwards, it was just me. And so I was getting like all the work and getting all the practice. And then, like Mark says, they said they started talking about wanting to do a video component of going back and forth and stuff like that. And I was like, well, okay, let me know what you want to do. Because I mean, Mark and I had a boss the guy who brought Mark into my life in St. Louis was a guy named Chuck Atkins. And Mark left, but I stayed in St. Louis, and Chuck and I worked together for many more years. And one of the things Chuck told me, he taught me a lot. I call them Chuckisms. And Chuck told me, don't turn down nothing. so when they said, "You want to do video?" I said, "Yeah, I can do video." And back when I was doing video, what Mark was talking about earlier, when I wasn't that good at it, I had saw this camera. It was $2,200. It was a video camera, and it lets you connect XLR microphones, and it had 2 memory slots, and it's a Canon. And when you buy a Canon, that's a consumer, and then they have a professional line, and in the middle they have what they call prosumer, which is a mixture of both. So right in the middle, and every time I saved up for that camera, my kids would need something, so I had to let the money go. And then my wife asked me one time, she goes, how much you got now? I said, I'm at about 1,800. She goes, "You should go get that camera," because it was payday. She goes, "You go get that camera now, because if you don't, you're never gonna get it." Mm-hmm. So I did, and in between, when I had to stop, the camera just sat there. And then when this guy brought it up, he was like, to do Nutty History, I wiped off the dust and set up. I turned a walk-in closet into a vocal booth with sound treatment.
Wow.
And when I was in Dallas, I did the same thing. But see, clothes absorb sound. So I would leave the clothes in there, and it would deaden the sound, so it would sound more professional, not as echoey and stuff like that. But then when I got to Dallas, I had made enough money where I could invest in some sound panels and things like that. So that's what I did. And then when they wanted to do the video part, I just had to cram everything into that closet, which what I do now. And but they were very patient with me, because I told them, I said, "Well, I need some lights," and they were like, "Okay, well, get some lights." So, and then they said, let's be clear about this. Send me the guy that owns it. Send me a link for the lights. And I did, and he ordered them, and he sent them to me. And then there was an issue with the microphone, because when you do voiceover work, the microphone that I use, it would be like right here when I do voiceover. But when you do a video, it has to be out of the shot, so it has to be kind of like right here. Well, that's a distance, and it matters depending on the mic. And with my mic, it was more for this kind of work. So he said, "What do you suggest?" I said, "Use a shotgun mic, and then I could just use the voiceover on that." And he said, "Well, how much are those?" I said, "Depends how much you want to spend." He said, "Well, I want the best." I said, "Best is about $1,000." He goes, "No, I don't want the best." He goes, "I just want something that works." So I did some research and found a mic that was good, and told him, and he said, send me the link. And he sent me the link. I sent him the link, and he sent me the mic. And they're very good people. Nutty History. It's an interesting thing because I'm in St. Louis, and I'm the narrator. The guy who writes the script is in India, and the guy who puts it all together with the video is in Croatia. The project manager is in Los Angeles, and the guy that owns it is in Idaho. So we're all over the place, and we very seldom.
It's like the United Nations. It's like the United Nations around here.
And we very seldom meet. But we text each other and talk. Because sometimes, I make a mistake, and the guy in Croatia goes, "Hey man, you got to redo this line because you said 1803 instead of 1703." I said, "Okay," so I'll redo it, and I send it to him, and he's like, "Cool." And we do have deadlines and stuff, and I had one last weekend, and he goes, "Man, I got to get this out like in less than an hour. How soon can you get this back to me?" I said, "I have it for you in 30 minutes, right?" And so 20 minutes in, he's like, "Man, we're pressed for time, man. And I was like, I said, "It's coming, man." I said, and so I sent it to him, and he was good, but it's something that I was blessed with, and I'm happy to do whatever I can for them. And there's some plans maybe down the road where I could maybe move out to the West Coast, because they're thinking about expanding the operation on the West Coast and doing something like that. So I was like, well, maybe by God's grace that'll happen. But they are wonderful people, and there's nothing I wouldn't do for them.
Tony,
Like there's nothing I wouldn't do for Mark. Mark says, "Can you do this on Thursday night?" I was like, "Yeah, whatever you need, man." So I mean,
what about me, Tony?
Well, you're included in the deal.
Okay.
Tony, so Bootsy, there was a time, and I apologize for being so emotional earlier in the show.
Yeah, thank you for
Troy, where you at?
for that.
Troy's on the line. Troy, so Troy, right. Troy, where you at? Troy, supposed to hop on the line. So Tony, there was a time in Tony's life, Bootsy, when he was not praying. He was not a God. On your phone, Troy, I sent it on your phone, man. Oh, didn't I?
No.
Yeah, I sent it at 4:58.
Wow.
So Tony, there was a time. Huh? There was a time when Tony, when God wasn't a part like that, Tony, and I think then so talk to us about that. Now, you weren't necessarily a praying guy at one point, but now you are.
I am.
What's the difference? What relief have you found relief there, or what's the difference?
I have found peace. I find, for many years I ran from the Lord, and I guess in a way you could say, and I'd make jokes about it, and I would tell my listeners on my radio show, "Don't invite me to your church because I'm not going to your church." I'm not going. I don't want to go to your church, right? I was like, I love God, but I really don't like preachers. I would say that on the radio, right? And it would bother people, but I had a my parents. My dad was still alive. This was in 2008 or 2009, and they went through a hurricane, and they had to leave the house, and they were in Houston, and they got lost. And I remember, praying to God and said, "You get them through this, and I'll be your soldier forever." And He got them through it, and I've been saying His praises ever since. And I pray every day, and pray for my family and my friends and people that I've lost, and I pray for my dad, and may he rest in peace. And I pray, for the people of the world, that we have more love in this world, more empathy, more tolerance, and it helps bring me peace. At my age, I'm 63. So
damn.
All right, Kevin Hart. I that was some funny stuff. But it brings me peace, and it helps me cope with things that get thrown my way that I wasn't expecting, stuff like that. So I don't mind telling people about that, because that's very important. But it's been something special. But I mean, I think back in the, you know, this old saying that there's no book on parenting. Well, these days there are books on parenting. But back when I was a kid, not so much, right? And so, you know, my father, his way to bring up his only son to make him a man was to teach him that you don't cry and you don't show emotion and you keep that to yourself, which was wrong. But he was doing the best that he could with what he had to work with, which was a third grade education. So there was that. And but it was that man, Bootsy, Marc Clarke, who really showed me that it's okay to tell another man that you love him, and you know, if he's your brother, and it's okay to be emotional about things, and it's those kinds of things are fine. And I learned that from him, and that was the kind of like the beginning of me softening up, because you know I was just hardcore, where there's just things, and it was silly, it was stupid, and it was silly, and that's and I've learned that it takes more of a man to make you to reach, to acknowledge your weaknesses and to ask for help when you need it than it is.
Was that hard? Was that hard for you for a while?
It was hard. It was hard for me for many years, but Marc made it a lot. It's just his demeanor. We never talked about it, but it's just his demeanor. It made me realize that, you know, if I'm going to get through this, I need to be more like him and less like me. Right. Wow. And that's when I started picking up weight. So, you know.
Well played.
If I could be like Marc.
He sucked you in and then
hit
you in the head.
No. But you know what? I walked through fire for Marc, and he knows that. And I know he'll walk through fire for me. And we cannot talk to each other for a couple of months. But when we do talk to each other, it's like we talked to each other yesterday. And
especially when my phone gets cut off.
I wasn't gonna bring
Tony hadn't heard from me in years.
It's been a while, and I was like, okay, well, and I called, and I gave boop, 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 you know, and it's like, okay, well, you know, so
they ain't give you the new one. He ain't give you the new one.
But you know, we were talking one time. This was like right after I got laid off. I think it was in Dallas, and he called me just to check in, no big deal. And we're talking. He goes, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "Nothing." He goes, "What's wrong?" I was like, "Nothing." I said, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "What's wrong, man?" I said, "Nothing." I said, "There's nothing wrong." He said, "How much?" I was like, "What?" He goes, "How much do you need?" And you know, he's my brother, and I told him, and he sent it to me like that. And
good old days.
And I never forgot that. And you know, with all this,
well, he got a TV job now, Tony. So
I know that.
Reach back.
But now, you know, and my wife and I talk about it all the time, how, you know, once we get caught, because I got laid off twice in 5 years.
Yes.
So and so I got, you know, I'm still digging out of that hole. But once I get out of that hole, I'm gonna give him his money back. I always said that was always my intent.
Man, please, as much I used to. Tony was
because he wanted.
Tony was the big brother in St. Louis and Troy. Hopefully, Troy, you still there? I just sent you the link. You know, Tony was the big brother. I slept at his house on his couch. You know, I was this single young guy making what 30 in St. Louis, and just living, barely keeping it together. But Tony always had my back, and you know, his family did, and so yeah, that really was the closest I had to a brother. And then of course Troy, when I came to Baltimore, Troy was like the big brother to both of us, actually. So it was funny when we kind of moved around, and the universe put us all together. Tony, what I wanted and Bootsy, what I wanted to talk about, you know, what I thought was interesting, Tony, was so when you look at radio guys, I'm like, damn, like we're actually, you're definitely one of the last of the Mohicans. That generation of guys who were on the radio back then. I mean, Bootsy, and you're a radio guy too. That generation, Bootsy was like the generation kind of like 2 underneath us. Tony, you're like right underneath Tom Joyner's nuts, and then I'm kind of under you. You know what I mean? But that whole top tier of coming next after Tom Joyner. I mean, what, Donnie's the only one, I guess Donnie is the only one left of that generation. Kinda.
Yeah.
As
I
far
mean,
as full time on the radio, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I mean, and I'll just say this: Don's been making a lot of money for a long time.
oh, Donnie been rich a long time.
So,
Yeah, Donnie,
and
yeah.
and that's a testament to him.
And you know
And
what? He's in his own. Donnie's definitely on his own class because I think Donnie was the highest paid individual DJ for years, regardless of format.
that was not syndicated.
That wasn't syndicated.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of
yeah, he
syndication,
was the
ladies and
first.
gentlemen, Troy Johnson joins the discussion. There he is.
There he is.
There he is. Oh,
My
Light
people.
Skin Junior. Now, Troy's dad would be, I guess, almost before Tom Joyner, right? In that class, Troy, right?
Yeah,
Your dad's in
that's
that
true.
class before Tom Joyner,
Absolutely.
and then Tom, and then I said Tony's class, and then me, and then Troy. I guess Troy, you kind of with me, Troy,
I
kind
got in
of.
the business in '89.
Okay, yeah, and so, and then Bootsy's the baby of the group, but I think we're keeping it moving. You know, Tony's still on the radio, but I think this voiceover thing's Tony going to turn into something. I feel like this is going to turn into something even bigger. Like you said, I could see LA. I could see some, because Tony always, Troy, right? Tony's always looked the part. I think something about Tony, he resonated with me and Troy as young guys.
Yes.
Like he's
And you
always
know
looked
what?
this part. Yeah.
You know what I like about Tony? And I know he alluded to this already. I got to give Tony credit for learning how to do stuff.
Yeah.
You know, people don't do that anymore. You know, you may want to aspire to do something different, and I want to be a blah, 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 this and that. But life is hard. It's hard to do those things. It's hard to transition to something else. And Tony, I heard him talking about it a few minutes ago. I built my own studio. I, stood between 17 suits. You know, they were all Italian. But
Tony did have them too.
But I mean, he learns how to do these things, and is not hindered by the process of learning something completely different, building a different kind of muscle. So, salute.
Well,
to
you know
Tony.
what? And I see, Troy, perfect setup. Troy didn't know this was coming. Speaking of building up a muscle, Troy Johnson, I was saying that about us old radio guys, how we have to do what we got to do to make it work. And our own Troy Johnson not only segued into talk radio and then into news radio and then into television news.
Mm-hmm.
He is now a full-time anchor reporter, and this is a radio guy. And Troy, I couldn't help but think when I was thinking about you possibly hopping on, I saw this and I said, I got to pull this up for Troy because, one day, I mean, Troy, we know Troy is in Mississippi now, but we know you're going to come back and perhaps be like this man.
Uh-oh.
Max? Across the country, Frank, the
My
city
man.
of Cleveland, which has received a $1 million federal grant
This
to
is
use
his
its
debut.
presence in Cleveland's public
National
housing
news.
projects, has run into a problem. The city had planned to take half of its 50-man public housing force out of their...
Now, what's crazy is that actually looks like Jay Johnson. Jay Johnson flashback. So Troy and Bootsy too. Bootsy transition. Bootsy, media mogul. She's sending kids. Bootsy's had 3 kids go to the Ivy Leagues this year.
Wow.
And the thing about Bootsy with his program, when he says he sends them, sadly, the black community, when Bootsy says, well, I've sent kids to college. Oh, Bootsy with them. Bootsy is taking them. It ain't no I sent him. Bootsy is packing up. He's taking them. And I mean, good Lord, how much can one man do? But what do you guys think? What has it been that has allowed us to kind of keep reinventing ourselves, keep living in this kind of cutthroat? Because radio, hey, if you cut us all, do we love and bleed radio? Yes. Is radio not what it used to be? Yes. And so what do we do? How do we keep it going, guys, when so many of us are just like selling insurance or working it, how do we keep it going? How do we keep this thing going?
You want to eat?
That's true. But
I mean, if you know your skill set, if you know what you think you're good at, whatever you do, what can you do to maximize your abilities? And I think all of us have run across people, and if we're talking about radio, who are very into the thing that they're into, period. You know, they want to work at the black radio station because they love black music, and that's fine. But there's a job at the country station that pays twice as much. So what you gonna do?
Yeah.
You know, are you going to be closed-minded and say, I only want to do this? Or am I going to broaden my, and use the talent and abilities that I have to, you know, take on some other things?
Yeah.
There's some people that don't, they want to be on the radio to play the music. You don't even make the music. You just want to play it? Like, what, you know?
Yeah.
So you just have, I think you have to have something within you that pushes you to grow and to be moving forward. That may be tied to the generation that we grew up in, you know.
And Bootsy's an old young man, so
you know, that may be tied to the expectations that family or the way that we learned society. That, you know, you gotta have a good job, gotta have a career, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas, you know, your creativity may take a back seat because you're focused on, you know, taking the perfect steps to grow your career. You know, now you can do both.
True.
I also just think.
Go ahead, man.
No, I just think piggyback what you're saying is that with us four, we still have a desire to do it. We know our purpose, and we still live in our passion. And we have not got to the age or to the stage in our lives where we have given that up. I think there's something in us where this keeps us connected to our youth. It keeps us connected to our ancestors. It keeps us connected to our purpose. And sometimes, as we know in media, you got to find different creative ways to do that and really connect with it. And I do think that's part of it, is the fact that we do fully understand we're still connected to our purpose. We have not lost the purpose that we had as a young person and why we really wanted to do it. And we've now finding creative ways to do it. Like for me, I'm finding creative ways is I am now committed to developing the next generation of it. And I only focus on that. And the greatest thing is developing that as well. But I just think for all of us, we just know our purpose. We're still connected to our purpose and our passion. And we've just found other creative ways to get to it. Tony?
It's true.
Go ahead, Tony.
No, I was going to say that's very true. A lot of people, I think, that I came up in radio with, well, I'll say this, the people who were before me in radio, a lot of them, it was a natural segue back then to segue into television from radio. You know, it wasn't until these TV stations, local stations are, you know, owned by, you know, huge corporations now where they demand some sort of degree or something like that they want. And even like, you know, back in the day, the weather guy was just the weather guy, but now they have to be meteorologists. They won't even look at you anymore. So it's kind of like one of those things. And guys like me who have been in radio a long time but haven't been in radio, because once you're in radio, you're always in radio, but you're not working in radio because it never happened. This never happened to me. But syndication took out a lot of people, a lot of great people's careers, and it was very sad, and it was dark days. I mean, syndication has hurt black radio more than any other format, right? But I'll say this though, I don't blame Tom or Russ or Ricky or Steve. I don't blame, because who would turn that down? Nobody would turn that down. So you can't be mad at them. You know, if you want to be mad at somebody, you have to be mad at Bill Clinton, because Bill Clinton is the one who deregulated radio.
Oh, okay. I thought you meant about Monica Lewinsky. I was like, what?
No. He's the one who deregulated radio and allowed these companies to own as many stations as they wanted. And, you know, companies did that, but they couldn't. You know, you have 800 stations. You can't afford to have 800 different morning shows and 800 different midday, afternoon, night shows, because the benefits alone will kill you. And I was told that when I worked at Clear Channel in St. Louis, that's exactly what they were going to do. They were going to utilize a new technology called voice tracking. They were going to take advantage of some syndication and some day parts and stuff like that, because they just no way they could survive. And
Troy, I mean, Tony, Troy, I think you were there too when they brought in Bootsy. They brought in the system we should have known. The profit system, the profit system, which they say they could do that. They could do it for years. They could do voiceover for years. Like they could just put it in there and You're like, that was the beginning. And we said something like that. That's the beginning of the end.
Yeah.
It sure was.
But
Guys,
now, guess what? AI is here now, and we got to
AI.
watch out for that. Now, that's the new thing that's coming. That
That's
we got to
coming.
really.
So,
watch
guys-
where that's going to go for media and radio.
well, let me ask Troy something real quick, because he doesn't use it all. So is it true that the strike in LA, one of the reasons is that Hollywood wants to clone people's images so they can use them any way they want? I've been reading that. Is that true?
There is something. There's something
Oh,
there.
snap.
I haven't heard all of the details about this contract dispute, but the key element of this is AI.
Yeah.
And the ability that the endless abilities that AI could potentially have for the industry. I heard on one of the national news programs just a little while ago. I heard a guy kind of who knows the industry, and he said, "Well, you can't replace actors. You can't replace the physicality of actors and the way a person moves and all of that stuff." And he was saying that AI can help, but you cannot replace the actor. Then he said, "The writers, though." It was like, yeah, I don't know about the writer. It was. I mean, his whole tone. He didn't say it like that, but the tone was certainly.
Yeah. Good luck.
Certainly
Good luck,
interesting.
writers.
Good luck to you writers out there. But I think it's going to be a protracted thing. It's probably going to take a long time. The strikers are going to have to hang on for a very long time, and get to the point where the industry says, "Look at all this money that we're losing. We got to fix this."
Yeah.
But they
I
want.
don't know. Good luck on that one. I don't
That's
know.
going to be a tough one.
So, guys, as I wrap up, I want to go back. And Tony, did you saw the clip, Troy? Did you see the clip of Tony? Did you see that?
Did I see it?
Yeah.
Of Nutty History?
Yeah.
I've seen Nutty History.
Okay.
Yes.
So,
Tony talking about French history is amazing.
Yeah. So, as I wrap up, I want to give a
I
little
love
bit. Let's give a little bit of Tony. I got a couple of little things I just wanted to play since I have them loaded up. So, Tony first.
The woman who reunited the Mongols. By 1264, the Toyuid Civil War had torn the Mongol Empire into 4 separate khanates. Succession disputes between the descendants of Genghis Khan had turned into an all-out war, and the empire would never really recover. By the 1350s, the Yuan Khanate had fallen to the Ming Dynasty.
The thing about it is,
Go ahead,
Tony.
Tony.
I read the comments, and they are in love with Tony's voice, and it is amazing. He's got a freaking amazing voice.
Yeah, he
You
does.
know what? And I don't hear it. I don't. And I was talking the Nutty History people. They're starting a new channel, and they hired this guy to voice it. He's from in England, and we were talking yesterday, and he goes, "I could listen to you talk all day. You have an amazing." And I was like, I just don't get it. I don't get it at all.
Well, you got it, Mister.
Tony,
I'm grateful for it.
Tony, it is true. You have an amazing voice, and we're all giving you props. And it is why that you have been. We go back to Tony's radio origin. You are the king of straight men. It's because of your delivery. It's because of your voice. And I'm not talking about straight men, if you know what I'm
Yeah, I
talking about.
understand. I got you.
I mean, but people will listen. You draw people in. You draw
the king of
people
straight
in.
men.
You're the king of straight men,
But
Tony.
you know what? It's always been for me. The straight man thing was like, a man. Why would I work hard at trying to be as funny as like Marc? Why would I work that hard? Because Marc's naturally funny, and we
Because my check's gonna be bigger than Mark's. That's why. Why would I work harder?
Well, no, we did a radio show together, and why do I need? I'm not going to compete with that. So I would just like set them up, and I think after, I don't know, Marc, did we work together when the Kings of Comedy came to? I think we were working together.
Yeah. We got pictures.
We had DL, Steve, and Cedric in the studio, and Bernie on the phone. And I remember we got off the air. Our boss Chuck Atkins, he goes, "That's the easiest money you ever made." Because all I did the whole morning once they got there was, "It's 8:40," and then I was let them go. And then I'd raise my hand, and they'd quiet down. I go, "It's 8:49. We'll be right back." And then I could come back and go, "It's 9:06," and that's all I had to do. And he was like, "No one has ever made easier money that day than you," and it was true. But I knew my limit. I wasn't going to try and compete with those comedians, and I never wanted to compete with Marc or even Kevin Woodson when we work together.
Well, and then speaking of voices, Troy, this one's for us guys.
Oh,
So Troy, this popped up, and I just wanted a reason to play it. The late Elijah Cummings. Oh how accurate he was on this day.
You got caught up in it. And some kind of way, I hope that you will, I know that it's painful going to prison. I know it's gotta be painful being called a rat. And let me explain. A lot of people don't know the significance of that, but I live in the inner city of Baltimore. All right? And when you call somebody a rat, that's one of the worst things you can call them, because when they go to prison, that means a snitch.
So yes, that's Elijah.
R.I.P.
R.I.P.
We missed that dude.
Man. And so I got this one, you guys know him. So Sydney tomorrow, what is tomorrow? Friday. Tomorrow, Sydney's white coat ceremony at Howard University.
All right.
As they start their journey onto medical school. And so it was around Christmas time when she wasn't a doctor.
Happy New Year. Hi, my name is Sydney. Happy New Year.
Hi, my name is Sydney. Happy New Year.
Look at the camera. Hi, my name is Sydney. Happy New Year.
Hi, my name is Sydney. Happy New Year.
Skylar, your turn.
Hi, my name is Sydney.
Wait a minute. What's your name?
My name is
Skylar.
Skylar, and Happy New Year.
Spencer, your turn. Say hi, my name is Spencer. Happy New Year.
Okay, needless to say, Sydney's going to go to med school. Okay?
Them kids is grown now.
Now they're grown.
Now, this is just this clip is just because I don't know if you guys were lovers of this series, but Bootsy, I don't know. Are you a Snowfall guy? I don't think you guys are Snowfall guys.
Are
you Snowfall guys?
I've never seen
Snowfall.
You never saw Snowfall?
No.
Well, this scene right here.
I'm all in.
You're all in. So you remember this scene, Troy? Bootsy, this scene right here. There are many of these in Snowfall where you were sitting at home eating your popcorn like, oh, damn. This is one of those scenes. This means nothing to what we're talking about, but just because it's a badass scene.
Something more than a subwoofer and a weight bench.
Oh, wait a minute. I think I clipped it. Sorry, guys. Yeah, well, sorry, I cut the scene.
Man.
So sorry about that. That was a monster scene. I know. Sorry, guys. And then last but not least, y'all know I love Kanye. Troy remembers this day like it was yesterday.
Oh,
so where do you stand, you know what I'm saying, when it comes to that relationship with Jay-Z and Dame?
What do you mean, like, where do I stand?
Because people are saying, well, hey, are you standing next to Jay-Z and Dame's my man, or like, what is that?
It's just hard because I'm signed to Rockefeller Records, and Dame really put me on.
So actually, the best part of the scene, I'm gonna keep it going because we've been going for like over an hour, but I just wanted to get those last thing, guys. Look, Tony Scott, man, I love you.
Love you, man.
I'm so proud of you, man. So excited. Again, when I watch, like Troy said, hearing Tony go through those names is amazing. What's also amazing is looking at the comments, Tony, because it's really on fire right now.
Yeah, it's doing extremely well, and the production side they're doing amazing work, and it's showing, and we, every time one of our videos gets over 1 million views, we get kicked back a little something, and that's always
okay.
And so we've had several of those, so it's doing real well. And speaking of voiceover work, I'm also starting in September, I will be the voice of KECK here in St. Louis. So I'll be So I've been working towards that for a while, but by the grace of God, because I was actually supposed to do it, and we were supposed to start recording, the imaging pieces, and then the PD got fired, and then the next PD, well, he's got his own vision. But then he came back around and chose me, and so I'm excited about that. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited about that. So, and I've been working really hard on my radio imaging chops. I took some coaching from Vanessa James. Shout out to Vanessa James because she's awesome. And got a demo together. I've been shopping it around, and a lot of people like it. They're just not ready to make any changes yet, which I understand. It's a big deal, but
don't forget about us when you get that first million, man.
That's right. Tony don't need no lottery ticket.
Yeah, okay.
Also, don't forget Bootsy Vegas heading to Baltimore. The Crank Crusaders coming in August. You got that date, Bootsy?
Yeah, August the 5th. Crank Crusaders featuring Raheem Devon. Excited about it. What up, B More?
What up, B
You're
More?
gonna be hosting it, right? You're gonna be hosting it, right?
I want to be hosting it, but I realize that's the same weekend as NABJ. Bootsy Vegas. So I don't know. Isn't that Troy? That's the same weekend, right?
That's right.
The 5th.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
Also,
sorry. I think it's
Go
a
ahead.
Thursday though.
Oh, wait a minute.
Uh-oh.
Well, I'll be there, buddy. I will definitely be there. I definitely will hop on stage, man. Also, George Wallace was supposed to join us. Let's see if we got him.
Comedy Factory, it's the legendary George Wallace.
People can say some stupid stuff. I just get off the airplane, I'm walking to an airport, man. Hey, Mr. Wallace, you in town?
Plus, from the TV show Night Court, Marsha Warfield.
Sometimes now I have to take a nap just to get ready for bed.
And Myra J.
The house was so cold, the cat was wearing oven mitts.
5 shows at the Baltimore Comedy Factory, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, July 28th through the 30th. For tickets to go see George Wallace, go to BaltimoreComedy.com.
Yeah, George Wallace is still doing it. The thing I was George, I was going to, he was going to talk to him. George is in his 70s and he's still making calls. George called DC and Baltimore looking for Marc Clarke. He's like, can I get? And so he called me because he wanted some commercials. He wanted to make some appearances. You know what I mean? It's like at 70, he's still doing the legwork.
Wow.
George Wallace, I know, is a multimillionaire. He don't need, but he's still out there doing his thing. And it really fired me up because it just made me think about, you know what? I guess that's the same thing. Hey, that's what we'll be doing too, I guess.
Yes.
Any parting shots, guys? Any guys, as we wrap up, Troy?
I mean, it's just good to see everybody.
Yeah, man.
At least, and we're not all in AI, which is great. So this is actually us. So, I mean, I'm just happy for the success that we're all having, the fact that we still have a brotherhood and a connection that's unbreakable. And, we just now, if we can get 5 million views of Nutty History, then we could have this party in, Punta Cana or something like that. Come on, Tony.
I'm working on it, man.
Yeah, man. Fly out on the G6. Let's go.
He just sent me another script, so I'll be working tonight. So,
Bootsy Vegas, parting shots.
Hey, man, it's always great to be amongst this wisdom here. I appreciate it. I always soak it all in. Thank y'all for allowing me to your Radio Men's Club, and I appreciate y'all. Thank you, Mark, as always.
And Tony, the big kahuna, what do you got to say to wrap it up?
You know what? It's been great being on with you guys, Bootsy. You're incredible, and Troy and Mark know how I feel about them, and it's all good, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right, y'all. Take care. Thanks for watching. Someone's like, is this thing still on? Yes, we bun on. All right, y'all. Take care. We'll see you next Thursday.